A Canadian preacher named Stephen Shane tells a story that took place roughly 2 centuries ago about a military officer and his wife who were aboard a ship that was caught in a raging storm out on the ocean. Seeing the frantic look in his wife's eye, this man tried unsuccessfully to calm her fears. Suddenly she grasped onto her husband's sleeve and she cried out, "How can you be so calm?" He stepped back a few feet. He drew out his sword, and pointing the sword at her heart, he asked, "Are you afraid of this?" Well, without hesitation, she answered, "Of course not." "Well, why not?" he asked. "Because it's in your hand, and you love me too much to hurt me." Well, to this he replied, "Well, I know the one who holds the winds and the waters in the hollow of his hand, and he will surely care for us." Now, often like this anxious woman, we find ourselves amidst the raging storms of life, and we feel a great degree of fear. We feel dread and worry and uncertainty. In Romans chapter 8 and verse 31, Paul raises a very serious and significant question. He asks, if God is for us, then who can be against us? Sometimes, like Jacob that we read of in the Old Testament, who thought that his beloved son Joseph was dead, and now he was about to lose 2 more sons, we often languish and lament that everything seems to be against us. But really, who can be against us? Whenever we watch the news or just observe the world in which we live, we see a lot that's against us. We see foreign foes that are against our country. We see misguided religious figures who are against Christianity. We see atheists and infidels who are against God and against the children of God. We see false religion that is against the biblical principles that we hold dear. We see liberal theology as standing against the conservative principles that we hold. Humanistic, radical, and nefarious leftist groups are against the family values that we preach and that we practice. And if that's not enough, at times it even seems as if our own elected officials and our own government are against us, against Christ, and against the Word of God. But behind every one of these opposing forces to our faith, there is only one foe. That is the devil. Jesus declared in Matthew 13 and verse 39 that the devil is our enemy. He is the evil one, Matthew 13 and verse 19. He is the father of lies, John 8 and verse 44. Peter refers to him as our adversary, 1 Peter 5 and verse 8. And John says that he is the accuser of the brethren, who's making war against those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus, Revelation 12, verses 10 and 17. But Paul's question is neither raising doubt nor enlisting a list of our enemies and adversaries, but it's a rhetorical question. If God is so demonstrably for us, then who can be against us? Who can really be an effective adversary? Paul is pointing out, however, that whoever and whatever they may be, there is none who can overcome him who is for them. Now, these questions that I'm about to share with you as we conclude our lesson today are ones that should remind us of God's continual care and concern for his people. First, will God not graciously give us all things? Who shall bring any charge against God's children? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? God certainly will respond to all of our needs. He will relieve our fears. He will rescue us from our adversaries. He will recompense our enemies, redeem us from Satan's clutches, and reward us eternally. And by the way, remember Jacob, who thought everything was against him? Although his heartache was real, Jacob was mistaken, and his griefs and his fears were founded in deception. Joseph was alive and well, and he would live to see him and his sons Simeon and Benjamin again. God, in his providential care, would assuage his sorrow, requite his faithfulness, and reunite his family and supply all of their needs in the land of Goshen. And so the message for us today is very simple. Do not fret, do not fear, or allow your faith to falter, regardless of the waywardness of our culture, or the opposition of ungodly forces, or even the demise of our beloved country, because when it comes down to it, if God is for us, then who can be against us? Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program today, and have a blessed day.